Welcome, everybody. Welcome back, friends, to the International Brotherhood of Magicians official podcast. My name's Jason Michaels, and if you're here for the first time, welcome, and welcome my two co-hosts, Ben Young, Scott Cantrell.
Hi.
Glad to be here.
Great. And if you're not here for the first time, thanks for coming back. Thanks for listening and or watching again. How is everybody doing? Scott, I just saw you the other day. We were at the International Brotherhood of Magicians mid-year meeting, which sounds like really super fancy. You know, for people who have seen the movie Now You See Me, it's like the meeting of the eye. It's like all the
It
magicians get together and we're
it is
trying to
exactly like that. We have the really cool suits and
yeah.
the fancy set and people just vanishing and appearing, and everyone there is extraordinarily attractive, and
What meeting were
it
you? What
is
meeting
just
were
like,
you at? Where were you again?
oh, nope,
You
you're
were at the
right.
chess. You were at the chess meeting.
That was yeah, right. I was at the chess tournament. Yeah. No.
Oh gosh.
We did have a very attractive group of people there. Just,
What
not
is
quite the
going
same as
on?
the
This is
movie.
how we're going to start the podcast? We're
I'm
going to talk like,
sorry.
okay.
No, this is
I'm pretty sure this is the end of the podcast.
Uh,
No, I will say one of the things that was a very pleasant surprise about the mid-year. Number one, it was an incredibly productive meeting, and so that was not the surprising part. I knew it would be productive because we have a great group of leaders. But Ring One, we were in St. Louis at the hotel where the convention's going to be coming up. First of all, the hotel is a
yes,
phenomenal venue for the convention. So
yes.
the ballrooms are great. The lobby area is phenomenal. There's a lot of space to network and jam, which is maybe one of the most important things about a convention like this is that
Hmm.
there's room for people to spread out and have fun and jam into the wee hours of the evening or morning. And but Ring One, Jason surprised us, and they had an open mic night show the night before, and they put on a spread. We had Pappy's barbecue, and their whole club came out. They asked a few of us to perform on the show and put together this whole event just because they have an incredibly active ring, incredible, fantastic ring there. But they did this in large part because the board was going to be there and honored us, and it really was an honor.
And let it be known that Scott did a very, very fine set of juggling.
Well, thank you. Thank
In
you.
a
And
room full of magicians, Scott chose to juggle.
you know, be different. And Jason, your cootie catch routine was fantastic as always.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, to echo what Scott said, the it's a cool venue. I'll be honest. When I pulled up, I was like, this this is where we're because it's not that impressive from the outside, but the moment you walk in the front door, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is gonna be great. There's like all sorts of little like hidden nooks where you can go hang out with friends and just hang out and chat. Really big lobby area, but also a big like lounge area, which is like connected to the bar and lounge. They also serve food in addition to the restaurant, and so um, it's going to be super fun. It's going to be great. There were a number of conversations about the convention, that's part of one of the reasons why we're there. So it's going to be very exciting. Looking forward to it quite a bit. And it was a good meeting. I feel like we got a lot of good stuff done and lots of exciting things coming. Just so stay tuned for to see what, all the cool things that we're going to be doing in the next 6 months.
And if you haven't registered yet, now's the time. So
Yeah, it is.
go
It
ahead
is.
and get your convention tickets and book your room for St. Louis in July.
Well, that's what Scott and I've been doing. Ben, what have you been up to, man?
I've just been listening to you guys for the past 10 minutes.
I mean, outside of that.
Oh. Things are good. I've been working, doing some private gigs, working at House of Cards some. I'm working on the main stage tonight as of this recording.
Nice.
They call me Benny Big Time. So,
Benny Big Time.
yeah.
Who, when you
So,
say they, who calls you that?
just whoever,
Oh,
mostly me. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
folks.
No one with any kind of influence. Just
I love it. Hey, you guys, I know you're gonna find this hard to believe, but we got an email.
Oh, we got an email.
Fan
We
mail.
got an email.
We got
We,
one. This is
well,
great.
okay,
Been waiting for it.
let me put it to you like this.
Oh,
I got an email, but it was about the podcast, so
oh,
it's to us. So
okay.
I'm gonna read it and we're gonna discuss because number one, we love getting fan mail, and you can send it to me, but you can if you're listening, you can also just send us a you can there's a way to text a message. And to be honest with you, I should have researched this so that I could tell you how to do that. And I honestly don't, I'm not sure. But if you can figure it out, you can text us a message and it'll come to us. And if you can't figure it out, you know how to find us. Our socials and our information is attached in the show notes to every single episode. Also, on the IBM YouTube account where we, post these the video podcast. So anyway, if you want to send Scott, Ben, or myself an email, feel free. Anyway, all right, Jonah Knight sent me an email. Here's what he said. Hey, Jason, I wanted to say that I like the podcast, and personally, I think that the controversial topics are valuable. In forums, the old farts shout these conversations down. Having your podcast get into them is important. Oh, I'm not going to edit. I'm just going to read what he wrote. So
Sure.
if you are an old fart, you can talk to Jonah about what he said. Don't send me a message. That said, I had a real problem with the way y'all talked about storytelling in episode 27. All right, fellas, you have some answering to
That's
do.
all right. That's all right. This is I like the fact we have the email.
I'm a full-time magician in Ring 122, and I am a bizarrist. I just got back from the East Coast Spirit Sessions where we had 3 powerful lectures about story and character, and in episode 27, I'm pretty sure that you didn't use the word bizarre once. You have to realize that this is a massive blind spot that the 3 of you have, and I think it plays right into the stereotypes that non-magicians have about what we do and who we are. I've seen amazing card magicians where the audience leaves happy and energized. I've had shows where I tell a 5-minute story with one effect that makes the audience cry, and afterwards the entire audience got in line to talk to me. Sounds like one of Ben Young's shows, making people cry. Anyway, one is not better than the other, but to completely forget that bizarre exists is a problem and something to keep in mind moving forward. So that's what Jonah had to say. And just for the record, we had a correspondence, and there's more to this. But let's talk about this first. Number one, he's a bizarrist, and he took issue with the fact that we really didn't talk about bizarre. And you know what? He's right. We didn't. We didn't bring up bizarre and bizarre magic, and bizarrists. People who are into. Who wants to define who wants to
We
define
should let
bizarre
Jonah
magic?
define what bizarre
Yeah, I was
magic
gonna
is.
say let's.
He's the
Yeah,
guy, so he could. Jonah, send us your definition of bizarre magic. We could look it up too. I mean, I know
Well,
how I think about it, but it would be an incomplete definition.
let's just say this. Based on his email, we can assume that bizarrists are, at the very least, they're storytellers because he took not offense, but he took issue with the fact that we didn't include them in the conversation about storytellers. So they're telling stories, and so I personally, when I first got into magic, I really enjoyed bizarre magic. It's a really interesting type of magic.
Maybe we should give an example. I think most people probably listening to this know what we're talking about, but maybe we should give an example.
Go for it.
Ben? No, no.
You know, so bizarre back.
Here are two examples. Here are two
Okay.
examples from early on when I first was introduced to bizarre magic. Someone, and these Jonah, these may not be good examples or the best examples, but these are the ones that I have in my head, and maybe not being a bizarrist, these are the stereotypes I need to get past. Nevertheless, taking a light bulb right out of a socket, putting it into a plastic bag or paper bag, smashing it with a hammer, and then eating the glass. By the way, do not try that at home.
You think that's
Um,
bizarre magic? It seems more like a geek
and
trick.
that's geek magic.
Sneak magic.
That's
Okay,
geek magic.
gosh, now you
No,
just
but that's
told me.
not the same.
It's not.
It's
It's
not
not
the
the same
same
thing,
thing.
Scott. I love you, but that's not it. What's your
Okay, well, see,
second
this is
example
why.
that'll
What
be
was
along?
your other example?
No, no, it was blockhead, so that's not even going to work either.
All
That's
right, so
Yeah.
so bizarre magic, to the best of my memory, goes back to Tony Shields, Tony Andruzzi. These are guys that way
Hmm.
back in the day, and I'm talking about way back in the day. I don't know if it was. I think maybe it went back all the way to the 50s. Maybe it was the 60s. But they literally were from the magic world. They understood magic technique they understood, they were big time into storytelling. And at the beginning, I don't know if this is at the very beginning, but early on in the Bizarre movement, they literally did stuff and they would be like doing these rituals. And I say rituals, I put quotation marks around them. They wanted you to believe that they were like talking to the devil. Now, they never were talking to the devil, but they wanted you to believe
Yeah.
it. They wanted you to believe that they were in league with like the other side. And that was like the hardcore bizarrist a long time ago. Tony Andruzzi had the Weird Weekend. He had the Complete Invocation, the New Invocation, which were the magazines that were all about bizarre magic. There was a really popular magazine called was it called Seance Magazine? Yeah, Seance Magazine, where they had a lot of bizarrists. When I got into bizarre magic, it was a lot more about storytelling. It really, this was in the 90s. And this is when I was just getting into, I was probably in college, and it was just a lot more about telling stories. It was about taking a magic effect, whether it was something like making a silk handkerchief disappear, or whether it was maybe taking a deck of cards and animating it so that the haunted pack where the deck cuts by itself, and building some sort of a story around that was maybe like the magic was like an object lesson,
Yeah.
or it was something like that. And that, now I'm not into the bizarre movement now, but that's what it was back in the day when I was into it. Do you have any sort of experience with it, Ben?
No, but my sort of overgeneralized kind of thought about it is I think of the sort of like quote unquote like spookier stuff. I
Okay.
think of things like seances. I think of haunted deck, haunted key,
Yep.
things that are a little slower. But what is it that was it? Is that a haunted doll as well? Like that rises up, that like stands up, like it's like a voodoo
Yeah, like
doll
a
kind of
little
thing.
voodoo
Like
doll. Yep.
I
The
think of
bell that with
those
the
kinds of
bell with the
things.
bell that rings itself
The
Yep.
being
bell that rings,
I got one.
yeah, these things that are, they're not necessarily like mentalism per se. They're not necessarily, literally talking to the dead, but they have just a little bit more of like a quote unquote spooky vibe. That's kind of the
Well,
just what I think of with it. But
yeah,
but we didn't
Yeah.
address it. We didn't talk about it.
yeah.
And I kind of feel like it's probably because we're trying to talk about magic as like a bigger picture. We weren't really, and I don't remember the conversation specifically, and I'm not going to listen to it right now. But we're trying to talk about magic as a whole to a lot of different people, and I think that we were just sort of saying, in general, you have to decide: are you wanting to just hit with magic over and over, or are you wanting to incorporate these kinds of stories? And all the people that are bizarrists, what they do is they're choosing the stories more so than magic over and over and over.
Yep.
Oh, and all that makes sense. And thank you all for the education, and thank you, Jonah, for igniting the education. I have Googled it, and you guys are of course correct. Bizarre magic. I'm not saying this is the end all be all definition, but I think it's a very good beginning. Bizarre magic is a theatrical, story-driven genre of illusion focusing on eerie, supernatural, or gothic themes rather than the traditional watch this sleight of hand. It uses storytelling rituals and artifacts to create an immersive, unsettling atmosphere, often blurring the line between performance and reality. This sounds like I need to watch more bizarre magic. I now that you guys have mentioned some examples, the yeah, I understand the genre we're talking about, but I love watching this kind of magic. I
It's
really
super fun.
really enjoy it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
And
it's either
and
super fun or it's insanely boring.
well,
I mean,
kind
look, I'll just
of
call it.
both of
Or
Hey, look, you guys know that I'll call it exactly the way that it is. And the first thing that he said was that I think the controversial topics are valuable. So I'm just going to tell you, Jonah, a lot of times you guys are just damn boring.
them. I suspect if he's a pro, he would completely agree with you. So because it's the same in any genre, right? Whether you're doing card magic or sleight of hand or parlor or especially mentalism, right? Um, it's easy to overplay the words and underplay the emotion. And I'm not even talking about the trick, right? Or the
Well, let's
effect.
talk about it from the point of view of the audience. If you tell them you're a magician, do you think they want you to talk for 5 minutes?
This is a great question.
I mean, it's look,
And I think we touched on this.
if you don't say you're a magician and you say, "Hey, I want to show you something fascinating," and you go into a story, that's one thing. But if you introduce yourself as a magician and then look, I sometimes you guys know because I talk too much on the podcast. Sometimes I talk too much in my magic, and I see people check out, and that's when I know I've said too many words. I see it in their head. They're like their eyes glaze over. They start looking around. And I'm like, "Uh-oh, too many words."
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I think we talked about this as well. I think we touched on that. Um,
yeah, that's a good point. We
that
did at the
it's
time.
all about, you know, being aware and making choices, um, and not talking just to hear yourself talk. Are you actually saying words that are contributing to something, whether it's a story or whether it's the entity effect or whatnot? I also want to point out that you could bore people with magic too. If you are
Exactly.
doing, you know, card trick after card trick after card trick, even if they're
Yep.
the best routines in the world,
Yep.
people's eyes can glaze over because they lose track of what the card is and the process and whatever. So
I
it's
mean, the
not
Well,
word,
mutually exclusive.
it's a good point because a lot,
ultimately, if we
oh,
kind of boil this down, and again, I know we're kind of going over ground we've touched on before, but it probably is worthy of repeating some of it. What you said, Jason, in terms of you say you're a magician, and it comes down to this. It comes down to expectation and connection, right? So if the in my this is my thinking, if the audience has one expectation, unless you are if you're deviating from that expectation and you're creating something better than what was expected, or different in a positive way than what was expected, you're good. But if it's different in a neutral or negative way, or if it doesn't live up to the expectation, you're going to struggle with the audience. And at the end of the day, to Ben's point, um, no matter how good the magic is, if the connection with the audience, define that as you will, if the connection with the audience isn't there, it's not going to be as enjoyed as, doesn't mean it won't be enjoyed. It's not going to be as enjoyable as when there is a connection between the performer and the audience. So my
yep.
thoughts.
Yeah.
I mirror what Scott said. It's all about the expectations, and I know we talked about that. I think
Yeah.
that comes up a lot. Is the expectations, but I also think that you can manage the expectations at the show.
Yeah.
So if and it wouldn't work for every event. If the event is advertised as this super lighthearted, family friendly, bring your kids ages 5, to the show, and you're gonna do a bizarre magic show with long stories, great, well scripted long stories, but uh, that's going to be hard. That's going to be really, really hard to manage. But let's say it's presented as this classy thing. It's at a speakeasy or a bar, something like that, and it's like this cool, swanky thing. People know there's a magician, but they don't know anything about it. You're the person that's there. You can manage the expectations at the start of the show and say, "I'm a magician, but I love the bizarre. I love the unknown. I love the whatever." And now you can get the audience on board with you, and then you can proceed from there.
Yep.
So they know, okay, it's magic plus more.
Yeah, it's good. That's very good. Very smart. So I corresponded with Jonah.
Oh, right. There's
Yeah, yeah.
more.
Said, "Hey, great point of view. You're right. We didn't bring up bizarre." And so, and then I don't know. I said something else, and here was his response. If you really want to dig into it, this is kind of why I don't think I'll ever go to the IBM convention. What do you have for me? For people who don't care about cards, I can't imagine that it would be worth it. I would love to hear a podcast conversation where you try to change my mind. I'd really do like the show. All right. Well, here you go, pal. Let's try to change his mind. This is somebody who is interested in bizarre magic, storytelling, does not think that a general magic convention would be beneficial to him.
Well, so let me throw this back because I think this is a very good question. And the most direct answer I that comes off the top of my head that I think I can give back is this. I would ask Jonah if I went to a bizarre magic convention as a generalist magician, could I learn something that might be valuable in my general magic from the bizarrists?
Well, I mean, I'm not Jonah, but I'm going to say that if you're actually legitimately wanting to learn, then you can probably always learn something.
Sure. And my point, yes, exactly. And my point is just because there's not just because I'm a general magician doesn't mean it's a bad idea or a waste of time, money, or effort to go to a bizarre magic convention. In fact, I you could make the argument, and Jonah might successfully make the argument that I, being a generalist magician who does comedy magic for corporate groups, I might actually be able to learn a lot more going to a bizarrist magic convention, which
Hmm.
specializes in skills and knowledge and creating experiences that I'm not normally exposed to, that could be incredibly useful for me to bring into my world. And so I would make the same argument back to Jonah is, and to any magician who has a specific genre. Why would a mentalist come to who does only corporate mentalism? Why should they come to the IBM convention? Why should only a sleight of hand card guy, close-up guy or gal come to the IBM convention? Uh, these are very legitimate, fair questions, and I think the answer is the fact that the convention is beyond genre and is general is the reason.
Hmm.
I think a close-up sleight of hand card artist can learn things from a physical grand illusionist. And I think a grand illusionist can absolutely learn things from a bizarrist. And I think a bizarrist can learn things from a kid's magician. Um, and I think we have to be open to it, right? And then the question that we always have to ask, regardless of the environment we're learning in, is what is the application for me? Not am I going to do the trick that way, right? But from the presentation that I saw, from the effect that I saw, from the idea, does that inspire me or give me um, any inspiration or ideas for my own work? And I think if we ask that question and keep it on the forefront of our mind, the answer is almost usually is often, I won't say usually, the answer is often yes. That gives me an idea. May not be something I put into practice, but it's an idea worth noting and keeping in the inventory for later.
Yep. Ben.
Scott, that was incredible. And for most of that, I was like, yep, I have nothing else to contribute, but I have one other thing to contribute to that. But I mean, really, I think you were spot on with that. I mean, that's huge. Um, as a generalist magician myself, I go to a convention like this, and a lot of the things that I see don't apply to me. And it is a general convention. And I see someone perform this. I'm like, I'm never going to do that. I see someone do that. I'm like, I'm never going to do that. That's not right for me. That's not right for me. And I still go and I get a lot out of it because I get to appreciate how they're doing what they're doing. And like you said, Scott, you never know like what kinds of takeaways you might get that you can apply. And so like in this kind of situation, I mean, maybe you see an effect that you've not seen before and you think, well, you know what, like with a different script, like that would be awesome for my show. Like you never know. So that's really my only other addition, besides the fact that you could go to the convention and compete.
Oh,
Right.
well, I mean, you could compete. I mean, you know what? I mean, that's an interesting point. Um, I had a couple of thoughts. Number one, um, in the second email, he said, "What do you have for me for people who don't care about cards? I can't imagine that it would be worth it." And that was really the only specific reference to magic outside of the type of magic that Jonah likes. It's not all about cards. I mean, yeah, there plenty of people who like card tricks, and there are plenty of people who are going to session with cards, and maybe we, the podcast, maybe we are guilty of saying too frequently, "Oh, we're hanging out with each other, showing each other card tricks," because that's not what is always happening. There are people
Yeah.
doing mentalism. There are
Yeah.
people talking about kids magic. There are people talking about all sorts of stuff because the subjects do vary. You get different type of people who do different type of lectures, who do different type of shows, and have different types of expertise. And so it's varied. And so personally, when it comes to education, when it comes to like becoming a better, more well-rounded magician, I think I go to lectures that I have no interest in because I
Right.
don't know what I'm going to take away. And very often there's at least one takeaway, and I go, "Oh, that's that." What they can sometimes it is just a single comment that they make, and I'm like, "Let me write that down. That's great," and that I can apply that. The second thing, friendships. You know, it's good to meet people who maybe stretch your boundaries a little bit, kind of make you think outside the box a little bit. You might meet some people who are totally into your, like, for instance, look, Rolando Santos is a major big dog in the IBM, got the gold medallion. I mean, I'm talking about been highly recognized, has given so much to the IBM. And Rolando, his entire world is the bazaar, and
That's right.
mentions it a lot. Like in my conversations and in conversations I've been
Good
around
point.
where Rolando's talking, he talks about bazaar, and he's at every IBM convention. He's part of the. He's an international past president. He loves bazaar and he loves talking about it. You know, this is an op there are other people, there are people who are talking about things you would be interested in. Those are people that you might, maybe, if you come to an IBM convention, you know, if you go to a convention where there's a bunch of bazaarists, maybe it's hard to make friends with certain people because they have their cliques. But if there's only a small group of bazaarists at the IBM, maybe you get to know all those people and maybe you become friends with them. So, but there are also you can make friends with people outside of what you do, and those friendships are also very valuable because, like Scott and Ben were both saying, you know, you can, you know, become friends with an illusionist, and there are interesting conversations that can be had. My last point is sometimes when you're too focused on one thing, then it becomes incestuous and you get lost completely because you're totally focused on this one thing and you get into the weeds on it, you know, and that's the only thing you talk about, and then you're completely out of touch with what people actually really want because you're like, it's like people who talk about like super high end mentalism stuff that only mentalists notice. Maybe it makes a difference to the real world audiences, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe these are just conversations that you have with your buddies because this is the stuff you're interested in. And to get a different point of view is good because it keeps you grounded as far as performing. And Jonah did say that Jonah is a full-time performer. So if you're a full-time performer, staying grounded in what people actually want is good. And you know what? What the bizarrists say people want versus the three magicians that work at House of Cards and work for real time audiences every single day, what we say that audiences want, those might be two very different things.
Yeah, maybe two different audiences, although there's probably quite a bit of overlap in those audiences as well in terms of
So,
desire. That's
so
excellent.
anyway,
But the last thing I'll say on this is obviously I could do well by studying more bizarre magic. I'm obviously familiar with that type of magic, even though I probably offended geek magicians and I offended bizarre magicians
And the generalists, if we're being
and the
honest.
generalists all in one fell swoop. So I just looked up bizarre magic conventions, and I need to, if we're going to suggest to Jonah that going to the IBM convention is a good idea, which it is, Jonah, then, you know, personally, I'll speak for myself. I'd be remiss if I didn't at least investigate bizarre magic conventions, and look, because I have no doubt, I'm familiar with this type of material, and I am confident I could learn a lot that could be very useful in my own work.
in the next podcast, a man on the street segment where Scott Cantrell goes to a bizarre magic convention.
Jonah, please be sure that you're there so you can show me around and people won't bully me too much, won't make fun of me for not knowing.
They're gonna smack you around for geek magic. They'll be like,
Yeah, it's true.
what is wrong with you?
It would be well deserved for a moment.
For a moment, yeah. Good conversation, guys. Jonah, you're invited to the IBN convention. If you make it, I'd love to meet you and
Yes,
chat with you.
please tell us.
And we can have a, you can tell me all about your bizarre magic and the type of stuff you're doing for real life audiences because it is interesting. If you stop and think about it, there are not a lot of magicians who work full time for real life audiences, and there are even fewer that are
Yep,
doing bizarre magic for
it's a
real life
great point.
audiences. So that would be a heck of a conversation to have.
Yep.
All right. Um, I was watching a movie the other day. It was called Deliver Me from Nowhere. It was about the Bruce Springsteen when he was had what's the guy's name? Jeremy Allen White. I think that's the actor, Jeremy White. He plays Bruce Springsteen, and it's all about sort of at a time in Bruce Springsteen's life where he was dealing with a lot of like there was some depression and there was some, you know, just he was trying to find out who he was. And it made me and I wrote down some things because it made me think about magic. And it was interesting because at one point, and this is I've seen this clip in like a couple of different places now. But at one point, he's going to buy a car from a car dealer, and the car dealer goes, "I do know who you are." And Bruce Springsteen, at least in the movie, okay, it's in the I don't know if Bruce said this, but in the movie, the car dealer says, "I do know who you are," and Bruce says, "Well, that makes one of us." Which I was like, wow, Wow. So here's my question. Well, it has a lot to do with music and it has to do with different mediums as far as magic goes. So we'll just kind of bounce around to a couple different places on this. But are magicians are magicians finding themselves through their magic like other artists do through their mediums? Because a lot of times we fall in love with magic because we see magic, we have this magic experience, um, and we say, "Wow, I want to do that. I want to do that for other people like this person did for me." Is that self-discovery or is that just showing off? Is that I've heard people say that, and I'll be honest, I don't even know if this is accurate, but I've heard people say that, oh, a lot of the stories of magicians are um, young people who are socially awkward and they find magic because that makes them popular.
Well, I didn't do it for popularity, but that was me otherwise.
It gives you something to talk about. It gives you something to connect with people on. Um, well, okay, so at the very least, Scott, one out of three of us are saying, "Hey, that was my story." So certainly, it is some people's story. Um, what do you guys think? Do you think magicians are finding themselves through their magic?
Uh,
Uh,
I'll
I
I'll
love how I
start.
ask these questions and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, how
It
am I supposed to
really,
answer
We
this?"
get 15 seconds of dead air.
it really. Hey, the pauses are valuable. Just ask a
Well,
bizarrist. Um, sorry, the pauses
Nice.
are valuable. Um, for me, and I just told this story last week to a group of people. I started doing magic when I was 11, but prior to that, and I'm still largely introverted. Put me in front of an audience or a forum like this, and I can present and do my thing and perform and have a great time. Um, but left to my own devices, and I suspect this is true for a lot of us, a lot of magicians. Uh, I'm introverted as a default, so I'm perfectly happy working alone and doing my thing outside of a group of people. I enjoy social time, but when I was 10 and younger, I was very socially, I don't want to say backward because I was just young and I hadn't found my place. And I didn't have something that I could talk to other people about or show them. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. And when I found magic, it let me break out of that shell. And so in that sense, I found a piece of myself that I discovered it or created it or something that didn't exist before or that I hadn't been able to tap into before. And magic was an outlet for me to do that. And it's continued to be that way, obviously throughout my life. So that I don't know that's exactly the same question you're asking from an artistic point of view,
Yeah,
but
sure.
but at the beginning stage, magic did help me uncover an aspect of my personality and my being that I wasn't in touch with or hadn't tapped before.
Interesting.
I agree. I was young when I got into magic as well. Um, and I feel like it allowed me to learn how to talk to people, get used to being in front of a group of people. Um, you feel a way about yourself because you have like a skill set that not everybody has. That helps you feel valuable, which especially when you're a teenager, um, that can be really beneficial. I do remember in high school, I've been in magic for like a couple of years, and there was another kid in my class who was into magic for a bit. And I was doing this thing, I would get to do Magic Monday in one of my classes. Every Monday I got to do a trick for the class.
Oh, wow.
And then he like piggybacked on it. Uh, and
Sounds like a magician copying your material.
yes, well, one of us stuck with it and one of us didn't. So uh but I remember him asking me, like, why do you like magic? And I don't remember my exact answer, but it was something like, I just like I like it. Like I like the feeling of it. Like I just like it. And I was like, what about you? And he's like, the attention. I'm like,
Oh,
well,
that's
there
interesting.
you go. So, and I don't know if that really I don't know what that means in a bigger picture, but I guess maybe some people do it, but maybe it's it's a shallower thing. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't stick as much. I mean, there needs to be something a little deeper. What I
Well,
was
yeah.
thinking about, oh, yes, Jason.
No, go ahead.
What I was thinking about with the difference between magicians and musicians, is that from an artistic standpoint, and maybe Scott was sort of hinting at this as well, is that if you are like a songwriter, you get to express yourself through your lyrics and through the music maybe a little bit more than we do as magicians typically. Some magicians are different. And this is where we say Derek Delgadio is the exception.
And Darren Brown
As and Darren Brown, like as tends to be the case, right? But a lot of times we're taking magic that we like, a magic trick that we like, we're creating a presentation that we like, but we're not necessarily spilling our heart. We're not talking about a breakup that we went through or loss or something. Not always the case, but a lot of times it does seem to be the case. And so there's a difference in like in terms of finding yourself, there's a difference in like how you are exploring those emotions because this a lot of times magic isn't really an outlet to process that stuff.
Yeah.
Did that
You,
make any sense to
no,
anybody?
it did. You
okay,
actually hit
very
on a
good.
couple of things that I had notes on. Well, I had a question that said, "What are we searching for when we're doing magic? Are we searching for the high? Are we looking for the adrenaline?" You just said
Mm,
that the kid that you talked to was looking for the attention.
yeah.
Think about it. I mean, that's really honest. But I mean, when you perform, I mean, isn't there like a I don't want to say the adrenaline, but I mean, like when you know you're getting ready to do a magic trick, especially when you're a young magician. I guess even now to this day, sometimes don't you kind of get like ramped up? You feel like you feel like a surge of energy, and like if we're stopping, we're thinking about it. Personally, I mean, I always say, "Oh, I do magic because I love to share the feeling that I had when I first saw magic," and that is an honest answer. That is one of the reasons why I love doing magic. But I love being in front of people because it's like, hold on, let me insert my drug right here into that vein because you get high not like off of pharmaceuticals or alcohol, but you
Maybe
get
you
this.
don't, but
Yeah, man, I don't. You get this legitimate like rush when you say, "Hey, everybody, come here. Let me show you something." And everybody's like, "Okay." They turn, or maybe the lights go down, and the point is, you have everybody's attention. Everybody is focused on you, and does that not make you go, "Oh my"? It's like a sense of power. Am I right? Am I wrong?
100%.
You might be right.
You might be right, but you might be crazy.
Thank you, Billy.
Yeah, that's right. Um, So a couple other things. You mentioned this, and so I'll just kind of rephrase it. But can magic ever create something as profound and as important as music can? Because music touches dang near everybody's life. Music, people go through difficult times, and when they hear a song, they remember that. Or maybe the song helps get them out of the difficult time because they remember a better or a more enjoyable time in their life. So can magic ever be as profound? Can it be I mean, because everybody, like almost everybody on the planet, loves music, and a lot of people like magic, but magic has never been as commercial
Yeah.
as music is.
The universality of music or of magic will never, I doubt, will ever reach the level of music. Um, Music is primal in a way that magic probably isn't. Although it's
I mean, think about early shaman.
no, I know. It certainly can be. This I think this simple answer to your question is yes. Magic can absolutely, completely be as pro. We can create as profound experiences with magic as a musician can with music. It may not happen as often, but that may say more about the maturity or sophistication of the art and the artist more so than the art form.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Um,
But yes, magic can serve profundity in that way. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, profundity.
Is that a word? Did I use it right?
I
Probably
don't
not.
know.
Probably
As
not.
It
far
may
as
not
I
be a word, but you definitely used it right.
you know, I don't think that magicians typically come to magic from a place of pain, where sometimes musicians do, or maybe they don't come to music through a place of pain. but they choose to express their pain through their music.
Right.
I mean, they express a lot of things, but there are certain things that we just grab a hold of and that just grab our emotions. And there are certain songs that like speak to it. Like, think about, that song that speaks to, a 15-year-old who just broke up with their significant other. Like, you're listening to certain songs and they're speaking to you and like you feel seen, you feel heard. Does magic make an audience feel seen? I don't know that it does.
I
I
think
mean,
it can. I
it
think it
gives them an
can.
experience of amazement, but again, I guess we're back to the artist, the person performing, right?
Yeah, I think it
Maybe we need
absolutely.
Jonah Knight to do some bizarre magic, and
Well,
because this, I say that as a joke, but that actually is the type of magic that might connect.
exactly. That's why I
Yeah.
was about to make the same connect. I was about to make the same note because if you think about the nature of that style of magic that is immersive, that is often supernatural, that is story based, that is experiential. You said something really important, which is musicians often come at their music and they create their music as a form of therapy, right? To get through a painful experience. Magicians, as a rule, don't do that, except for maybe Bizarrus. I
Mhm.
suspect that Jonah would tell us that he has effects and routines and experiences where he may have created. I don't want to put any words in Jonah's mouth, but using him as an archetype of bizarre magicians, it would not surprise me at all if they are leading that in the world of magic and they're
Mhm.
using painful experiences to resonate and connect with an audience.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where storytelling is what's is what's going to, it's going to let your emotions out and bring out emotions in your audience too.
Yeah.
Uh, I was also just thinking that when you started the conversation talking about Bruce Springsteen, and so we are sort of thinking about musicians like singer-songwriters, but the truth is that music doesn't have to have words either. And this goes back to the fact that music is primal, is that you can have an instrumental piece of music. I mean, think like classical music, that kind of thing. I mean, that is conveying emotion. That can make you feel something. There's something just about music in general, melodies and beats that just like hits us inside
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
magic it doesn't do, at least on the same level,
Or at least not in the same way.
not in the same way.
Well, I will also say that we've been talking about it from the point of view of like making an emotional connection. But if you're in an emotionally bad place and you see a really fun magic trick, that can snap you out of it. You don't
Hmm.
have to do
That's right.
like this storytelling magic trick for magic to have an emotional impact. You can have somebody who's profoundly sad, they've had a traumatic experience, and they decide to go out at night and they stumble upon a magician. The magician does something that number one is unexpected. Number two creates a moment of amazement and wonder, and that can completely change their emotional state.
Yep.
I'd sure like hearing your favorite song on the radio cut. The radio. How old am I?
You're the youngest one here, Ben, and you
Yeah, I
said the
know.
word radio.
I know.
Wow.
This is interesting. Let me point this out as well, because now that we've done a bunch of podcasts, it is so funny to me. I just realized this. We keep bringing up certain magicians when we're having these conversations, and we say things. Well, we say things like, "Well, Derek Delgadio is like the outlier here. He's the one who actually did this," and Darren Brown does this. Okay, that is very interesting,
There's a
isn't it?
lesson there, right?
What is the lesson? The lesson is that these are people taking risks. They're taking chances. They're doing stuff that is different. And if they're taking chances and taking risks, does that give them the more probability of leading the industry?
They both are immensely talented and creative people. So yes. Um,
I mean, think about it. Darren Brown and Derek Delgadio have both had shows off Broadway. Darren Brown has had shows on Broadway. Um, West End. I mean, we're talking about people that magicians are willing to get on an airplane, travel halfway around the world to go see. Why is that? Is it just because of their magic tricks? I would say that the magic tricks help, but it is not just because of the magic tricks.
no, that's right. That's right. It's
Yeah.
about the themes that they Yeah, it's about the story that they tell, to keep it simple. It's about the stories that they tell and the themes that they are willing um, to focus on. And of course, they're not the only ones, right?
No.
They're ones that all three of us really, I think we all admire and really enjoy, but
Yep.
they're not the only ones. I mean, you could
Hmm.
put Copperfield on that list to an extent, David Blaine certainly. And we're also just naming some of the more famous, right? There are plenty of other magicians that aren't nearly as well known who have that skill and talent and ability as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
that we could also, we could make the list, but those are good examples for what we're talking about.
Yep. Any final thoughts on that subject, Ben?
No.
All right, good. So, well, I figure we have time for one more discussion before our time runs out. And since we
Do you see
so
that he's got a smirk? Do you see that, Scott?
I,
Like,
I am scared about this one a
what?
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah, he always
I
gets this smirk
look,
of like, because he knows what's coming and we don't.
I
Talk
got
about
I got
behind
I
he
got
gets.
I got my roughest part of the podcast out in like the first 3 minutes. All right. This is all smooth sailing now. I'm good. So,
Well, we often get into the weeds and we talk about really nuanced stuff. And we've even said in past podcasts that we're talking about sometimes super advanced stuff that a magician who's been doing magic for a year or two, these are good things to think about, but a lot of this stuff may not necessarily apply. So let's talk about a subject that applies to people, everybody, all magicians, and especially magicians who are young and early in the magic experience, early in the becoming a magician and wanting to do magic tricks for people, whether you're an amateur, a hobbyist, or even somebody wanting to be a pro. Okay, here's the question. How do you get the confidence to do magic for strangers? Okay, I'll give you mine.
He,
Since we hit that with complete silence,
I
and
still
Ben
don't have
Ben
confidence.
yeah,
had the
you're
look
making
of
some assumptions
complete
here, buddy.
terror, total terror, like, oh my God, how am I supposed to answer this question? Okay, so for me, it started off with my family, and I would perform magic for my family. Of course, this does not answer the question, but this was where I got my first experience performing magic. And when you're a young magician and you don't have a lot of chops and you're not doing a lot of rehearsing, I'm sure that it was, you know, rough. I'm sure that it's okay. Let's put it like this: it was definitely not as polished as I was 10 years later. So I started with my family. And then, of course, I show it to a few close friends, again, not strangers. And a few friends, they see some magic. Maybe they're the ones I do magic for when I learn a new trick and I'm looking for another group of people to perform for. Now, I will tell you, I was very involved in acting, but I was not super social. Like, put me in a social situation, like if I would go out with a friend, that doesn't mean that I was like walking up to tables and stuff like that, going, "Hey, let me show you a magic trick." That was not me at all. In fact, the way that it worked for me to do magic for strangers is my friend Aaron and I would go out. We would go to Nashville because we lived just outside of Nashville, and we'd go to different various hotspot bars/restaurants, places that had bars, places where people were socializing. And we would sit down and we'd be sitting usually at the bar, and when we, you know, at some point somebody would walk by or Aaron would turn to the person next to him and say, "Hey, do you guys like magic?" And they'd go, and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh!" And he always checked with me first. He said, He'd always say, "Bring something with you." And I wanted to, but it was like I was reticent. I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll bring something," but it was like a secret thrill. It's like I want to do it, but I don't want to do it. And he would go, "Hey, do you guys like magic?" And they'd be like, "Yeah." And then he'd turn and go, "Have you met my friend Jason?" And like that was it. And they were like, "What?" And he's like, "Jason's a magician." And they're like, "Really?" And he'll do some magic for you. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" But secretly, I was like, "Yes." And that's how I started performing for strangers. Now, as far as professionally performing for strangers, I got a gig at a restaurant, and I went to the restaurant the first day, and I went, "Oh my God, I have to walk up to strangers and do magic tricks
The whole night.
the whole night.
Right, right.
Okay, how do I do this?" And I just worked it out. I just forced myself to, because we had a deal. My job was to walk up to strangers for 2 hours and do magic tricks, and they were going to pay me. And so I had to just literally start walking up to people. And I'm sure my approaches weren't good, but it was just like, obviously at that point, I had done magic for strangers, but this is in a professional setting where I'm just like, okay, I just got to gut this out a little bit. What are y'all's stories? How did you all get confidence to perform for strangers?
So I feel like there's like an expanding circle, right? It starts out with your family, and then it's your friends, and then when you're at school, then it's like your friends like start or actually what a great example is like doing Magic Monday in class where like some of these people I don't really know, but they're like friend adjacent, right? Because we're all in the same class. So that you kind of are like easing out, and then at some point doing it for strangers. There's a couple of things, but I think that preparation is helpful. Um, I think knowing if someone asks you to do a trick, if you have your like 1 to 3 go-tos that you like to do, to where you're not going, oh God, okay, what should I do? What should I do? If like, even if it's a deck of cards that you have with you, it's like, okay, well, I know what card trick I like to do. That's helpful. That way you're not as caught off guard, right? Then you can just do the thing. If we're talking about the actual approaching of people, just having a plan of like what you want to say. And I mean, having a friend be your wingman is great.
Oh, it
Um,
was fantastic.
but yeah, like when I was doing restaurants in the beginning, I don't remember my exact line then. I know what I do now, but like when I'm doing walk around, but um, have a couple of lines that you say. That way you don't have to worry about what to say when you get there.
Yeah.
You walk up, you say the line, and now you're just in, and it can be as simple as like, hey, my name is Ben, it's magic night. You guys want to see some magic? Boom, you're in. To where you're not having the approach anxiety and sitting there going, oh my gosh, okay, I gotta walk up over to the I gotta go right now. Okay, here we go. Okay. But if you go in, you're like, oh, all I have to do is just tell them the line. I just have to say it's magic night. Do they want magic? And then at that point, we can go either they say yes or they say no. And if they say
Don't
no,
take it
then we'll,
personal if they say
yeah,
no.
if they say no, we'll have a whole episode on rejection. Um,
We'll have three
yeah.
episodes.
But that's what's been helpful for me, even to this day. Um, if I'm doing a walk around gig at like a cocktail hour kind of thing, I still get nervous, especially in the beginning of the night, approaching those first few groups. And I have found that knowing what I'm going to open with and knowing what I'm going to say in the beginning takes that anxiety way, way, way down. And then the one last thing I just thought of is that if you're worried about strangers like judging you, if you're worried about the fact that they are just people that don't know you, uh, you don't know them either. So who cares what they think? If you don't, unless it's a paid gig, then maybe do a good job. But like if it's just for fun, like it doesn't matter if you don't do the most amazing job. You're never going to see them again anyways. It's not a big deal. They weren't expecting to see magic anyways, and just remember that too. There you
I'm
go.
glad I'm glad you said that last part right there specifically because I remember this was a realization I had way after I had been doing this for a long time. And I realized, wait a minute, this isn't personal when they say no, they don't want to see magic.
Right.
They're not even rejecting you. What they're rejecting
Yeah.
is your approach.
Yeah.
You didn't
Hmm.
say something that enticed them enough to make them want to see magic. Or maybe you walked up to a couple who were in the middle of a fight and you didn't have enough like wherewithal to think to yourself, those two people don't look happy. Maybe I shouldn't ask them if they want to see magic. So the only thing somebody is rejecting when they say no, I don't want to see magic is the way that you chose to frame it.
Yeah.
Scott, what do you think?
Agreed 100% on the approach to strangers in a walk around environment or when you're performing for people. Ben said it right. Know what you're going to open with and know what you're going to say. And then it really is just making yourself go through the motions of that. And as I mean, for me, and I think for most magicians, once you get started, it's so
Mhm.
much easier. It's the anxiety is only pre-approach and right as you start the line. But when they say sure, now you're into magic mode and you're doing your thing and anxiety goes away or at least comes way down. In terms of getting confidence to perform for strangers in the first place. If you're young in magic, and you haven't done that a lot, maybe you perform some for friends. And I think that Ben's note about kind of an ever expanding circle is correct. I think most of us have that experience, me myself included. Um, at some point, the desire and motivation to perform for strangers will be just a little bit more than the stress and anxiety and worry and fear about performing for strangers. And when that happens, you'll make yourself do it. And if you have my experience for, I did family stuff here and there. It's how I started. I did a family reunion. A lot of people I didn't know, but they were family and we were at my house and the magic
Get
was
out.
exactly. The magic was not great, but it was okay. And it was like, oh, little Scott's going to do some little tricks. Okay, let's watch Scott do some tricks. And so the pressure was, I felt a lot of pressure, but my first performance for actual strangers in a setting for a lot of people I didn't know was at a church talent show. I did have a lot of people I knew in the audience, but most I didn't. And this was for a talent show that I was trying to win. So there was extra pressure there that should not have been there, but it was. And I I did practice. I knew what I was going to do, but I don't think I've ever been more nervous in my life than before I took that stage for that first real performance.
Mhm.
And I've been very nervous about things. But as it relates to performing, I don't think I've ever been more nervous. But I had to take the stage because they just introduced me. And and my desire and motivation to take the stage and perform was just a little bit bigger, a little bit more than the cumulative effect of all that anxiety and worry and stress.
Yeah.
And I went up and performed and did fine. Um, so at some point that's going to happen, and you'll be compelled to perform for strangers. I wouldn't say you have confidence. I say you have, again, enough desire and motivation. The confidence comes after you succeed a few times.
Hmm.
You'll still be nervous. But Jason, you and I were talking about this the other day. I was recently giving a talk that I haven't given before, and I got more nervous than I usually do when I take the stage. And it's they're different kinds of nerves, right? There's the nerves that keep you focused and keep you locked, and I call that kind of anticipation and excitement more than nerves. And then there's the stress nerves that can actually potentially harm your performance, and they're kind of sourced in fear of failure, right? And that can be problematic. And and so it's understanding and knowing those things. But like Ben said, I'll still have that anticipated excitement and those nerves, if you will, before I go do a walk around gig or even before I take a stage, even if it's a stage I've performed on hundreds of times. There's still that excitement. And so you learn to channel that. The confidence tempers the nerves and it turns into excitement. That just comes
Well,
with reps.
you guys made me think of two things. Number one, if you are, oh, this is a little bit outside of the scope of the question. The question is about confidence for doing for magic for strangers, but we talked about like being in a setting where you go from one group to the next. Once you have momentum, don't stop, don't slow down,
Right.
because then you're starting again cold. Like the
Great
moment that
note.
you start, like, and you
Go on.
turn to somebody else and they were looking, and now they're like, kind of like, oh no, I don't know if I want to see it or not. But you saw that they're interested, and you think to yourself, should I go over there? The answer is go over there right then. Don't take a little break and then say, "Oh, I wonder else who else I can do it for." No, 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 no. Momentum is your friend. The more people you perform for, you build up more momentum, you build up more juice, in that area. All of a sudden, everybody's like, "Hey, this guy's doing magic," and then people are going to start asking you to do magic.
Yeah.
The other thought, it reminded me of the book The Game by Neil Strauss, and one of the things he talked
Now we're
about.
gonna get letters.
Yeah, well, if you want to know what that book is about, you know what I used to be into. Okay, so and then what that was the pickup artist community. I studied that. Most magicians did, because there was an entire point at one point that the entire magic community, that for people in their 20s and early 30s, they were all about learning magic tricks to meet members of the opposite sex. And in reality, that means dudes trying to meet chicks. So that's the way it was back in the day. So, but the point that Neil Strauss made was, when you see, okay, and I'm just going to use his words. Let me just be very clear. These are not my words. These were his words. Okay. So do not, if I want you to email me, but if you email me about this, I'm going to say your name on the next podcast and I'm going to light you up. Okay. So here's the deal. What Neil Strauss says was the moment that you see a target that you want to approach, you approach right then. You do
Oh,
not wait. Yeah. What is it? Three
I thought it was the
seconds?
3 second rule.
Within
Wasn't it
three
the 3 second
seconds.
rule?
Yeah, it was something like that. It's like you don't
But
think to
basically,
yourself,
yeah.
"Oh, yeah, give it to us, Bryn." Because apparently we know you've read it too. So go ahead. What's the rule?
No, I mean it's exactly what you were saying. It's basically you don't sit and think and debate and analyze and do
Get in
this and
your own
that.
way. Yeah.
Don't get in your own way. Yeah. If you're at a restaurant and you saw that the group they just placed their order, the menus got taken, okay, go right now. Now's your time. Go
Yep,
approach. Do the thing.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Nice. Good conversation, fellas. As always, always fun to hang out with
We're
you
gonna
guys.
get so many letters.
We like hearing from our audience. So please send Jason all of your emails. And geeks and bizarrists and general magicians, please forgive my ignorance earlier, but it's a play. Jonah called bizarre magic a blind spot, and for me, clearly that was correct. So I am excited to learn more and make it a non-blind spot.
I just want to point out how I end the podcast yelling at the viewer and yelling at the listener. If you send me an email, I'm going to light you up. And Scott ends the podcast with, I really appreciate how you opened my eyes to
Well,
this experience. And I'm
it's
going to be a better person because of it.
it's true.
Two very different personalities, huh?
And Ben, how would you like to end the podcast?
I'm just happy to be here.
He said, ironically.
So, hey, if we convinced you that you should go to the IBM convention too, then let me tell you a little bit about it. You can learn more about the IBM convention, which is going to occur in July this year in St. Louis, Missouri. It is going to be amazing. There's some of the talent that will be there is Aaron Fisher, Andrew Goldenhirsch, Skylar Jade, John Armstrong, Paige Thompson, Arden Shushin, Andy Gladwin, Jonathan Levitt, Mandy Muden, Jonathan Burns. Our guest of honor is Connie Boyd. There's a lot of good, incredibly good talent. We're talking about leaders in the industry. We're also talking about some folks that, while they're not underground magicians, they're magicians that you might not come across unless you hang out at the Magic Castle all the time. And so these are folks that you have the opportunity to get to see what they do, see why the magic community applauds them, and why people are loving. There's some Got Talent folks, some of these folks have been on the Got Talent shows and they're going to share their experience there. It's going to be a very cool convention. And, we're going to be there. We're going to be hanging out. I don't know if we'll do a podcast from there, but we're going to be there and we would love to meet you. And
Maybe we will, Jason.
It's a good idea. I mean, maybe we should do that exact
A
thing.
live podcast.
We could do that. If you recall, Eric Tate did it in Atlanta for the Penguin Magic podcast. They did it back in the day. Maybe they're willing to do it again. So anyway, we would love to meet you in St. Louis. You can learn all about it at magician.org. That is magician.org, where you can also learn all about the International Brotherhood of Magicians. You can learn all about the different types of magicians who want to hang out with each other. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. It has been a whole lot of fun. Any final thoughts, fellas?
Looking forward to the next one. Send Jason your notes.
Send Jason your notes. All right, guys. It's been a pleasure. You all have a great rest of your day. Take care. We'll see you next time.